Welcome to the Money Finder webinar series. This is a free webinar series for financial advisors anywhere in the world. Today's webinar isn't really a webinar. It's a little bit more of an interview, but we're running it on the same platform, so I wanted to share it in that fashion. Don't get excited if you don't see slides advanced. There's just one title slide, so we could actually spend the time talking and learning from my special guest today, who is Seth Godin. Seth is one of the world's most popular bloggers. That's how I came to know him. And he's written an amazing number of best-selling books. And so he was so kind to agree to talk to the financial advisors who listen to me on a regular basis today. So thank you for joining me, Seth.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Thanks for the work you do.
Anytime. Try and stop me. So one of the things I wanted to get an idea from you, because the financial services world is a world of regulation, and a lot of people think it's all about math, but I don't think that's the case. I think financial advisors can build tribes and make art. And so I wanted to enlist your help today to inspire some financial services artists. So in the world of, gathering clients and talking about assets and all that kind of stuff, what advice would you give to a financial services person, a financial advisor, somebody who's trying to actually help people with their money? What advice would you give to them to start building a tribe?
Well, I think we have to start by understanding why you would not want to do that and why you would want to say that the entire industry is driven by regulation and math. Because a lot of people would prefer it to be that way. And the reason is because if it is that way, it's not your fault. And you have complete deniability, and you're just doing your job. And the share of market you get is the share of market you get directly in proportion to how many hours you put into your job. So if you are looking to hire yourself to be a drone, then in any industry, whether it's pharmaceuticals or medicine or anything, it's easy to say, I'm just doing my job. These are the rules. I can't do anything about it. And I need to say that at the beginning because if you can't let that part go, then all the stuff you and I are talking about, all the work you've been doing, doesn't work because there's always going to be a reason to punch holes in it. So I start in a different place. I start from the place of saying, you are a human being and you care, and your caring can be expressed by your willingness to stand up, stand out, speak up, do work worth doing, and connect directly to people. And it turns out that when people connect with one another, the rules aren't nearly as important as the humanity. And what we've done is we've built a culture over the course of 100 or so years where money is one of the things we use to define our lives, and is one of the things we use to define our happiness. And if we can't connect about that, then we're really setting ourselves up for a great deal of trouble. So given all of that, I think you not only have the opportunity, but the obligation to use the work you do to have bigger conversations and real connections, not just between you and your clients, but between your clients and each other.
I love that answer, particularly the part where you point out that one of the reasons we probably hide behind regulation or use it as, a proverbial excuse is because it gives us a reason not to try. We can say, well, I'm following the rules. I'm not allowed. I hear that a lot, I'm not allowed. And what I found is it tends to be the way the question is asked. The question is asked almost hoping for a no because I think we're all a little bit scared to stand out. What if we, put our foot in our mouth? So that's the next question I have for you. In our tribe building exercises, we might make mistakes. It might not work. It might go bang. What do you say to financial advisors who might think, well, I don't want to try because it might not work?
Well, of course it might not work. That's the entire opportunity. The only thing where you are going to have a better than expected outcome is where it's possible to have a worse than expected outcome. And I think at this point it's worth bring in a very specific example, because people in this industry are nothing if not specific. So a financial advisor who I knew years ago sort of lucked into having one of his clients be a cellist for one of the most famous orchestras in the world. And this advisor also loved classical music, so they were able to connect over that. And soon thereafter, he, by referrals, had 3 or 4 members of the orchestra as clients. And within a few years, he had more than half the orchestra as clients. And once that happened, he had a specialty. And his specialty was, obviously, doing the financial planning and tax work for members of symphony orchestras, which, as you can imagine, share some fairly complicated issues, like, what's tax deductible about checking your cello in first class and things like that. And the magic of it was because his clients had something in common, he was able to actually run seminars for them. He would invite 5 or 10 of them over to his house, and they didn't pay him in money, they paid him by performing in his living room. But the important thing about it was they were able to connect with each other. The clients could meet each other because they shared similar fears and they shared similar opportunities. Also, as he got better at this work, he could represent their interests better to both places where he was making investments and to the IRS, because he could say, well, this one, this one, this one, this one. That idea that representing a group is possible for you isn't obvious. It's not written in the manual. But if you are willing to extend yourself at the beginning, you can find these groups of people that desperately want to connect. Because even when it comes to money, especially when it comes to money, people are lonely.
Yes, I think you're totally right there. I think, too, advisors sometimes think that they're only going to survive if they try to help everyone, if they are available to anyone. And when they do that, they don't take the time to invest in a niche or connect with a niche like that because they're afraid. And, of course, you made a really great point there where the clients were not only a tribe because they followed or connected with this advisor, but they were a tribe because they followed and connected with each other. I think that's a fantastic point. So my next question for you is, how can, in your opinion, an advisor create art? Because I think that some people listening to this are converts, and they get that art is not necessarily a painting, and it's not necessarily pretty. But what advice would you give to those that are not familiar with the idea of your work being art, an idea of how financial services could be art?
Well, my most recent book is called The Icarus Deception, and in that book I go to great pains to talk about what I mean by art. So we all agree that Pablo Picasso was an artist, but also Bill Shakespeare was certainly an artist. And then we can see someone like Marcel Duchamp, who was a Dadaist sculptor and protagonist in the early 1900s. He famously put a urinal into an art exhibit and caused a sensation and a near riot. The second guy who installed the urinal was a plumber, and that's the distinction. That what an artist does is something that might not work, something that touches us, something that gives us something to talk about, something that has an emotional relevance, and someone who will be missed when they are gone. So if you are just a human calculator, you will not be missed. We can find another human calculator. But if you are the connector and the person who is the linchpin of our culture or society, we will think of you the way we think of an artist. And so, again, another specific example. There are plenty of wealthy people in New York, near where I live, and probably 5% of them are really fascinated by money. And this financial advisor started a club for them where they would come together once a month and actively talk about their personal finances, which isn't for everyone to do this in public, but to sit around a table with 10 other families of high net worth and show your balance sheet and show your choices of investing was fascinating to these people, and they've been doing it now for more than 20 years, and there's many chapters that have evolved from it. The person who started that was an artist, and they were an artist because there was no manual. There was no dummy's guide. No one said you do it this way and you don't do it this way. They were finding their way, and they were creating a culture as they did. And as you and I said at the beginning, this isn't for everyone. If you want to just be an average financial advisor getting average pay for average work, you're already there. But if you want to get to the next level, you're only going to get there by changing the emotional part of what you do. Because the fact is, if you are actually able to deliver more basis points than everyone else, you don't need any of this because you're already a bazillionaire. Because once you make a few more basis points on a regular basis, just reinvest and you're done. That's not what's up for grabs here. We can't do any better on the basis points front. We can do better on the emotional human front.
I love that. There's some economists that say, human capital, and when they say human capital, they mean how much money we can earn in our lifetime. But when I hear human capital, I think it's more what you just described, which is our ability to move others, our ability to lead, whether anyone gave us permission to do so or not. You mentioned Linchpin. My favorite book of yours is Linchpin. I read it over and over again. It has sticky notes hanging out of it. I regularly grab it when I'm talking to advisors on the phone and say, now go to this page and read this. Read it 10 times till it makes sense, till you believe it, because I think that there's this tendency for us to blend in. When I started in the industry, everybody named their company after their last name, and so that you should blend in. And they always told me, you want to look the same as everyone else at the event, you want to act the same as everyone else at the event, you want your company to sound just like theirs. And I thought, well, listen, I'm 3 apples tall, freckle-faced, and red-haired. I'm younger than a lot of the people in the industry, and I am loud, and I just don't think I'm going to blend in. And so I think when you wrote Linchpin, that was something that really, really spoke to me. And I think advisors can become massive linchpins in the industry, regardless of whether they are an independent, just managing a book of clients, or if they are, high up the food chain in a corporate environment where they're not so much advising individual clients anymore, but maybe other advisors. What would you say to financial advisors about becoming financial linchpins?
Well, I guess I'd ask the question 3 words. Not even once. Not even once have you mattered to someone. Not even once have you connected with someone on a human basis. Not even once has someone thanked you not for the financial return, but for the way you made them feel. If that has never happened to you once, I'm not sure either one of us can help you. But my guess is it has happened to you once. So that means you are capable of doing it. The question is, do you want to? And so we go right back to what we talked about at the top of this conversation, which is if you want to, if you seek out these opportunities to talk to and interact with other people as human beings, to sort of de-scarify finance and make it something that we don't dread but actually feel like it nurtures us, just do it once and then do it again and then do it again. No one's saying you have to rip up the sheet of paper and start from scratch. What I'm saying is if you have 20 or 40 or 100 clients, convert 1, 2, or 3, or 4, and then 5, 6, 7, and 8. And the next thing you know, not only will they be hooked on you, but you'll be hooked on them, and your whole business transforms. The way you charge will be transformed. The demand you're in will be transformed. And most of all, the word of mouth will be transformed because this is something that actually people seek.
Awesome. You just said something that totally made me think of another question that I think would be amazing to hear your answer, because you're not a financial advisor. In Canada, to a lesser extent in the U.S., but I believe we both have the same kind of issue, it's uncommon for a financial advisor to charge a fee. They might charge a percentage of assets, or mainly they'll get paid by commission. But many of them are absolutely terrified to ask for a fee for their work, or they are convinced that people wouldn't actually pay them for advice. Now, I think a linchpin is worth a hell of a lot and can actually charge a reasonable amount. As somebody who's not in the financial services industry, do you think that everyone thinks that, paying for financial advice is never going to happen? Or could you kind of set some perspective for my audience how, others like you might actually feel about people who charge fees to be a linchpin for their clients?
All right, well, the first thing I'd say is no one knows what everyone thinks because everyone doesn't think anything. But,
True.
But putting that aside, the best way to become a category of one, which is your real goal here, is to start by changing the way that you charge. And there are plenty of ways to do that. There's an insurance advisor in Calgary who's been corresponding with me for years. And he went from being a typical insurance agent, of which there are 10,000, to being someone who rebated all commissions and only charged his business-to-business clients a services fee, where he said, look, I charge whatever it is, $200 an hour, and I sit and I look at every single possible insurance policy you could buy. I analyze all of them. I tell you which one is the best and which one isn't and why. And then whatever you pay, you get the commissions back, right? And plenty of other insurance agents can't abide that. They don't think it's fair. But he doesn't work for the other insurance agents. He works for his clients. If you considered the idea of the financial advisor who, instead of doing what she does now, says, what I do is I put together, action groups of 20 or 30 people who come together once a month to talk about their finances, and I charge every person in the room $100, right? That if you are running a club where you talk people through finance and you're not doing it to get commissions, but you're doing it to get connections, then you're never going to have trouble making a living, because people don't wake up in the morning saying, I wonder how I can get my advisor to make more money in commissions. They get up in the morning saying, they don't. They wake up in the morning saying, I feel out of sorts and out of whack and poor. I wonder if there's someone who I trust who can talk me through this. And once your goals are aligned financially with your customers' goals, you are significantly more likely to make a connection. That what a lot of people listening to this are missing is they're saying, oh, great, I can pretend I'm doing this, but then I can make more commissions. And you can't pretend anything. We're smarter than that.
Oh, I love that answer. You are my idea-sharing, change-creating hero. I don't know if you remember this, but it would have been right before the Icarus Deception was shipped. You sent an email to everybody asking them to fill out their shipping information. And I, being the smarty pants that I am, emailed back and said, okay, I filled all the information, but there's this part which says, please give us your phone number. Don't worry, it's for our drivers. We're not going to call you. And I emailed you and I said, now does that mean don't worry, I'm not going to bug you, or don't get excited, I'm not going to call? And about 2 minutes later, my phone rang, and I almost fainted and couldn't come up with any good questions. So I've spent all that time between then and now thinking, how can I get Seth to talk to me and I could ask a reasonable question? So I appreciate you taking the time today to talk to me. I love Become a Category of One. I think that's exactly what any advisor who actually wants to give financial advice and help their clients get the life they want from the money they have, that's what they have to do, is become a Category of One. So thank you so much for spending this time with me and talking to my audience. I think everyone's going to appreciate, and I know everyone doesn't think anything, but I've decided all the people in my tribe will certainly appreciate this interview. Any last thoughts, Seth?
You know, when you come to a fork in the road, you should take it. And that's where we are right now. People have to decide. They should decide once and for all. Are they going to go back to being like everybody else, or are they going to stand for something? And do it before you go to sleep tonight. And once you decide, the rest of it will take care of itself.
Oh, fantastic. Fantastic end to a great conversation. Thank you so much, Seth. Anybody who's looking for information about the Money Finder, please visit themoneyfinder.ca, where we create a ton of free resources and some ones that have a price tag to help financial advisors be the change that we need to be in the industry.